for coming. Don't sit down. Nope. So we've got somebody, I'd like to introduce a couple people today. But I would like to introduce my new partner. So he's with Community Outreach. We're no longer called Crime Prevention with the Police Department, but Community Outreach Unit. We wanted to change, actually, I kind of asked to change the program. Because our goal, I sat there and thought, what are we preventing? Crime prevention. What am I preventing right now? And I started thinking about it. It took me a while, a lot of coffee, and I said, you know what? We need to do more of an outreach program, education. We need to get education out to the community about what we have. We need to educate them on crimes, being victims, stuff that I had discussed before. So we changed that, and I begged, pleaded, and finally got the person that we wanted, who's amazing. He's great with the public. You might have seen him around. He's been here with Lockport. He's in his 17th year. Kevin Brock. He is now a partner with us. I can share information through email, things like that for you. So he is with me, so any questions you have, you can address it to Kevin. Kevin was in, so I was in crime prevention 2008, and Kevin was in crime prevention 2010. So he has done this type of police work before. He's working with the kids. He's great work. He's very funny, and you'll get to know him and love him like everybody else does. So I just wanted to welcome him and give him a round of applause. So I think some of our participants have not come. I know we're supposed to get storms. We should be out here before that comes. But thank you again for coming here today. Unfortunately, James Glasgow was unable to make it here today, but he sent his second in command. And we are very thankful and grateful to have Ken Gray with us here today. He's the Deputy Chief State's Attorney. Chief Deputy State's Attorney with us here today. So he's going to come up and he's going to be speaking about everything that Mr. Glasgow will be presenting today. He just, by speaking with Mr. Gray for the past couple minutes before here, he's very passionate about coming out and educating and getting to know the members of the county. So without further ado, Mr. Gray, you give our
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I do unfortunately have a cold this morning. I've had it for about a week. I haven't been sick in about 7 years. So I'm very blessed. But not very blessed, but I'm going to something else out here. But anyway, I got this summer cold. And now my youngest son has it. My wife is one of those that is a germaphobe, like I am. But they know what's going on, and they have communications with us anytime they want. As I start this morning, I heard some frustration from somebody about difficulty getting through to our office, getting somebody who understands in our office. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. So if you want to write that down, and I'm not kidding, I answer all my phone calls. It is 815-557-0841. That's 557-0841. I'm sorry? Oh, sure. I'm going to give you my pen. I've got to go. You bet. 815-557-0841. Now, my name again is Ken. That's K-E-N. Gray, G-R-E-Y. And I'm Chief Deputy State's Attorney. So I report directly to Jim himself. And again, we apologize for not being able to be here. Hope you understand that. You can always tell the difference between Jim and I. He's got the hair, I don't. And he's, of course, got the muscles, I don't. We're like yin and yang. But we've been friends for a very long time. He's a good man. He's very passionate. He challenges me every day, and I love him. So Anyway, so we're here to talk about a number of things, but I want to make sure that you understand that this is a free-flowing sort of thing. I'm not stuck to script. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. I would suggest, however, that you not give me a factual thing. If you want to ask hypothetically, that's fine. I just don't want you to feel embarrassed and that you've been scammed or this or that. And if you want to talk privately, I'll be happy to do that with you as well at some point. I prefer not to talk about cases that may be pending for various reasons, confidentiality, et cetera, but with those caveats, I'm happy to address as best I can anything or any question you may have. So, you've already heard about scams many times before. I'm not going to go into great detail about them. I'm just going to give you some common sense. How many, at least I've experienced it. So, how many, can everybody hear me? No. Okay. No? I'm sorry. I'll try and speak up louder. Just trying to give you some common sense thoughts. And I want to also explain, if I can, how the criminal justice system works and how there is some mystery to it. I get it. I can follow that. And I'll try to explain it to you. But then I want to talk a little bit about elder abuse as well. So it's not just about scams, but how we can address various topics that come in, and how we can, like Officer Jared and Officer Kevin, how we can help you, the bottom line. So, first, any questions at all? Okay. Just give me, and Officer Jared asked me to give you a little background about myself. I was admitted to the bar in 1983. I went to John Marshall Law School in Chicago. I immediately went to the state's attorney's office. Was there for about 3 years. Went into private practice with, at the time, the largest law firm in Will County. Became a senior partner. My specialty was litigation. I love trying cases. But I also found my specialty to be trying to keep my clients out of litigation, because that's where we save money, right? So did that for 24, 25 years. And then Jim, who I've been friends with since 1983, called me up and wanted me to be involved with his office prior to the indictment of Drew Peterson. So came in as his first assistant, or chief deputy, and helped him with the Drew Peterson case and many, many other cases. And we started a lot of programs over the years, and I just absolutely love my job. And if you ask me when I'm going to retire, I don't know, because I love my job. As long as I can keep moving and thinking good and he'll have me, I'm there. So, at any rate, any questions at all yet? Very good. I'll move on. So, what's some common sense things? First off, how many people have been scammed in one way or the other? Here. How many times do you think I've been scammed? I don't know. But a lot. My wife is always saying, okay, look, stop, don't use that credit card because we got new one coming in, because somebody's put a charge on it or whatever. 8, 10, 12 times that's happened. And we can't stop it. I mean, I'm going to be very frank and honest with you. Would love to say, hey, we can solve this thing, we can cure it. The best line of defense for you is you. And just using common sense. There's all sorts of programs out there. And while you have my cell phone number, I'm not the best person to first call. The best people to call are Officer Jared and Officer Kevin, or the Lockport Police Department. They're a great department. Chief Lemming, I've known for many, many years. Fine chief, command staff I've worked with. They're great officers, and they care, and that's critical. And that's always your first line of defense, besides you, is to talk to the officers, get their advice. If you call me, I'll probably say, or ask you, did you call the officers? And that's very common. And if you haven't, I can't start investigations. The investigations start with the officers. There's very, very few circumstances where I can start an investigation through the grand jury process. But for the most part, investigations, looking into cases, start with the officers. And you're very fortunate to have these great officers here. So, yes, ma'am.
Do you have their number?
Do I have their number?
Can you give us the number of who to call?
At the department?
At the community outreach officer.
I think I'll turn it over to Officer Jackson.
Yeah, it's going to be 815-838-6699. 2132. And if you call, you'll be given to our records department. If you just ask for myself or Officer Kevin Brock, they can transfer you. Or if you just want to say, I just like to leave her a message, my extension is 2275 and Kevin's is 2275. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
We're from Rumble, so we should call Rumble.
Yes, ma'am. Wherever you live is usually the place that best to start. And it might be the Will County Sheriff, it may live in an unincorporated area. If you cannot get through to somebody, call them. I mean, it's that simple. We'll make sure that you get in the right direction. So it does, look, if you just call our general number at our office, I mean, we hope to handle everybody appropriately. If every once in a while you're going to get somebody who had a bad day, right? So I promise you, if you call me, communicate with me, I will take that call, and we'll make sure it works. Okay, 'cause that's what we're here for, bottom line. So let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Not that I'm an egotist, but there's some lessons to be learned here. I'm very blessed, man. I've got 6 wonderful children, and 5 adult children I have. None of them are living in my basement. That's my standard for success. Now that doesn't mean that if one of them called up and said, Dad, I just lost my job, can I move in? Sure, come on in. But right now, there's no one living in my basement. They're all very successfully employed. My oldest is a PhD, a doctor of archaeology. One of those dreams is I had as a kid. I used to take him out in the woods. We'd go looking for things, Civil War sites. And I guess that inspired him because he's a doctor of archaeology. He's very, very well known. If any of you have seen those mosaic tile floors that came out of Israel and was found, that was my son. He's a supervising archaeologist on site. National Geographic is following him. He's a full-time professor in a major college in the United States. So he's very good. My next one down, my daughter is an author. She's got about 8 books out there. I'm not going to publicize those, but very successful. She's very talented in that. My next son is the one that's interesting, and that's where the lesson comes in. So all of my children have been well educated. They've gone to college, with the exception of this one son. And he didn't do too well in college. I was writing the checks, seeing the grades, and he was getting C's, D's. I'm going, I sat down with him one time, and I said, son, you don't seem to get what's going on here. I do not get along well with college. It seems like college doesn't get along well with you. And he said, Dad, you're right. This isn't for me. I said, well, look, it's not for everybody. It's time to get out there and do something. He has a great personality. I mean, just a wonderful personality for a young man. And I said, son, what you need to do is get into sales or something. And you know what he did? Took my advice. Now, so he's 34. He is semi-retired. So college is not for everybody. But now he thinks that he knows it all. And here's where some of the lessons come in. He's very wise financially, made a lot of good investments. He now believes in all passive income, which he's right. So my oldest son, who's a doctor in archaeology, he's a full-time professor, tenured, I might point out, major school. If I told it to you, you'd know, oh, okay. Major school. He's an author as well. He's written a number of articles, and he does really well. And I don't do too bad, salary-wise. My son, who didn't go to college and who's now retired at 34, makes more than he and I combined. He's got it figured out. But anyway, so this son, named Nick, came in one day to visit, and he wanted to go to this hot dog place that he loves. And as we're going there, we're just talking about things, and he starts telling me how cash is dead. Cash is dead, Dad, he's telling me. Cash is dead. And he says, everything's, in plastic these days. Everything's plastic. And I said, well, what do you mean cash is dead? He says, no, I don't have any cash on me at all. And I'm proud of it. I don't use cash. How do you get by without some cash on you? I get that, this and that.
So anyway, he says, I'll buy lunch for us today. And I said, no, that's great. Nothing better than having an adult son of yours buying your lunch for dinner, right? So we get to the hot dog stand, which is his favorite, my favorite, Joliet. And we order up the hot dogs and so on. And there's a big sign up there. What's the sign say? Cash only. And so I'm sitting there and I look at that sign, just smiling to myself and being mad. So he goes up to pay the bill, and he also now sees the sign. Cash only. He says, Dad, it says cash only here. Son, cash is dead. So who bought? Cash isn't dead, is it? At least that was a lesson that you learned that day. But here's the problem. We have these cards, right? And it's so easy. And I have a bunch of them in my wallet, like you all probably do. And we use them all the time. One of my favorite things is Amazon Prime. Isn't it great? Have you tried it all? You probably shouldn't. Because they know all your information. Facebook, probably shouldn't. I do it. I mean, my wife does it. We all do it. Probably not good. So I just kind of, whenever I'm going to give a talk like this, I go on. 2019 data breaches announcement, the worst so far. Capital One breach, 106 million customer accounts. Not in here, it's my notes, sorry. Sorry about that. No, I'm sorry. So I make my notes from here so I kind of go along with this. Yeah, Capital One breach, 106 million customer accounts. Marriott Hotels, 500 million customers. 500 million customers. How many people in the United States? 330 million roughly, right? Is your data out there? All of our data is out there. Unless you're a hermit somewhere, you don't use the internet, you don't have cards, you don't have bank accounts, your data is out there. So it's a question of time, isn't it? So what can you do? What are your thoughts? What do you think you can do? Yes, ma'am.
Freeze your account.
Freeze your accounts is one thing. Yeah, so you can alert your system, right? And freeze your accounts, and then you can, how you do that then?
Well, I froze my credit.
Froze your credit.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. That's a great alternative. What else? I'm sorry? Don't use it. Cash is king. So, but a lot of times it's inconvenient. You can't use cash, right? Any other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
Don't have your credit card connected to a bank account.
There you go. That's another one. Yeah, I like that. I did use for a long time. I think I still have it. I just don't use it very much. I used to use first off, debit cards. What do you think about them? Oh, see, you guys know, don't you?
Yeah.
I did that for a while. You pin in. I loved that I was credit card free, and that I had my debit card. So now I was spending my money in the bank, right? The concept is great. In reality, it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. So right away, my wife should be here talking about this because she tells me all the stuff. So she said, Ken, we're going back to credit cards, and here's your credit card, and she also said there's a limit on it, so don't go out there buying anything crazy. There's a limit on here, and the reason is that if it does get hacked, they can only get so much at worst. But the banks are pretty good at taking care of you, but nevertheless, so I'll put my debit card, and I get this credit card, and how many times I replaced it? 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, because it gets hacked. Data breaches, we see them all the time. So, we want to, what else? Any other ideas? I'm sorry, that was a great one. Yes, ma'am. Check your account regularly, right? You bet. So you might get your account over the online services. You might get it in the mail. What's the problem with both of them? The problem with your mail is people take your mail, right? And then they've got your numbers. They've got this, they've got that. Online, well, you can get hacked online. But most of them are pretty good, but it's going to happen. But you should check it regularly. Something I'm horrible at. My wife does that for me. And that's how I know all of a sudden we got a bad charge here and we're switching cards here. Yes, ma'am.
I checked mine, I caught the guy in 12 hours, he lives at 104 Trojan Avenue in Avon, Illinois. Because they can change your address. They got your credit card number, and they can change your address, and you go online and say, oh, my address has been changed. Yeah, but they can, if you check it every day, you can check it.
Do you mind if I take my jacket off?
No.
I'm sweating up here, so I don't know. Yes, ma'am, checking it every day, it's critical. Let me tell you another problem I had one time that really frustrated. So, in one of my last years of doing private practice, I resolved a pretty good case. And it would turn out to be a good financial year for me. I'm not saying I'm a millionaire, but it was a good year. And so, everybody know what earned income tax credit is? Okay, the last time I applied for earned income tax credit was back literally in 1978, I think it was. I was in college, I had a child, I was married, and I did it once. Felt kind of guilty about it, so I didn't do it anymore. So that earned income tax credit is designed for low-income people who have a child, right? So this is now speeding up. I received it was around April 15th. I had just given my material to our accountant about a week before, and I got a letter from the IRS. And it's very unusual because been married for a while, a long time with my wife. Not as long, I don't do it that way. She was here, she said, I'm sorry, long time. But we've been together for a while, and wonderful lady. But we always file a joint, right? So the first thing I noticed, I get this IRS letter. It was made out just to me. What's the likelihood of them sending me a letter made out to me when I've only filed jointly for 25 years? 0. So right away, red flag. I opened it up. It said, Mr. Gray, thank you so much for filing your returns, and we'll be processing this quickly. We need this for your earned income tax credit. That's what I did. I called my accountant right away. This is what I got. Now, this isn't that long ago. It's about, let's see, I've been first as for 11 years. Yeah, so it would have been about 13 years ago. So I called my accountant. She said, I haven't filed anything, Ken. I took a picture of it, sent it to her. She said, okay, yeah, they've got your information. My Social Security was right on the money. My name, my address, everything was exactly what it should be. This is the IRS. You must call the IRS right away and fill out a fraud affidavit. So I did. I had the affidavit online, I filled it out, sent it to them, and I said, would you please also then send, and they were very nice, would you please send me the information that they filed in my name and Social Security number? They said, no, we can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? It's an invasion of privacy. Whose privacy? That's what I want to know. It certainly isn't my privacy, because I've just been hacked. Oh, sir, we just can't do that. You just told us it's fraud, so therefore we can't provide it for you. Okay, whatever. I never did see it, and it worked, calling out a fraud affidavit. But then I became curious. How often does this happen? So I started Googling it and looking at this thing and that thing. It happened the year before 600,000 times. 600,000 times that people's identification and taxes were filed. How many of those were paid, you wonder? I don't know. Although I read an article that 25,000 of these kind of same exact things were mailed out by the IRS to one address. One address. 25,000. How big of a house is this? Right? But here's the really scary part of it. How many were prosecuted by the IRS that year? By the Department of Justice? 0. So, is it profitable for these hackers to do what they're doing? They're not going to get caught, right? And they paid out how many? 25,000 to one address in Texas? Folks, we have a problem. And that's the IRS. They're supposed to be our guardians. You know, it's supposed to be confidential. It's supposed to be this. It's supposed to be that. It's not. We're out there. So it's very frustrating. It's frustrating for me. And I've talked to the IRS about it. I've talked to DOJ. I've talked to the FBI, who I deal with pretty regularly. They're nice people. They care. Bottom line is, not going to be solved. And that's, I guess, the cold reality I've got to tell you. I could tell you all these other details and so on, but the reality is you're your own and best guardian. Do your best research. Protect yourself. Shred your documents. My wife got this little gadget off Amazon Prime where you can run it over your address on your mail. How many people have that? It's amazing. Amazing. She's fantastic at it. So she's up there at the counter doing this and putting it here and doing this, and I'm very proud of her. I appreciate her doing that. So there's all sorts of common sense ways. You see that IRS letter coming and you know there's something wrong right away, alert, 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 Will Robinson. Right? Start asking questions. Doubt. If you need to, reach out to your police department. Talk to them. If you need to, reach out to me. Talk to me. I'll be happy to address it. So I got nailed in a Memphis hotel one time. My wife and family and I were driving through. We stayed at a motel. By the time I got home, just from Memphis, there was an order of $8,000 put on my car for various places and delivering to various addresses. And the only reason that I caught it that quickly was because one of the retailers, JCPenney, I'll point out, called me up and said, Mr. Gray, did you place an order for $3,000 to go to this address? No. They stopped it. I called the Memphis police and basically said, hey, we can catch these guys by going and watching the house. Not hard. Just go, put your cameras on the house, you can catch them. As this other stuff's coming in, you can't. I stopped everything, I froze everything. But bottom line is, that's how fast it can happen. I contacted the hotel. I contacted them, told somebody at the hotel clearly took my information and passed it off to somebody. The police down there weren't so friendly. They said, hey, that happens all the time. Nothing we can do about it. Well, if nothing's tried, nothing new will happen. And it's just going to keep being more successful, right? So thoughts. What else can we do to help each other as far as not getting ripped off?
One thing I learned when we go out to eat, I used to do the credit card. And the person was gone for quite a while.
Right.
And I thought it was just busy or whatever. Within a week, they charged $300 in shopper and $800 someplace else. And I didn't know because I had the card in my hand.
Right.
When you go to get gas, you can see that.
Right.
And then I call the credit company right away. So I never let my card out of my sight. That's not saying it's no better happening,
Right.
but it's one prevention.
Yeah, so what she's saying, if you can't hear, is she went to a restaurant, used her card, the waiter or waitress took off, and came back about 5-10 minutes later, presented her with her thing, she goes to get gas later on, denied. Yeah, it's as easy as that. So you stop, your card, you freeze it, and then you have to go through the hassle, not them, you have to go through the hassle of re-engaging with your credit company and so on. So, and I had it happen one time as well in a restaurant where the waiter, I gave him $7 and something, he made it $77. I like to tip waiters and waitresses, I really do, but not that much. So, yes, sir.
When you go to a restaurant and you give the waiter your card, make sure it's your card you get back.
There you go. Either that or call and find out what the credit limit is, right?
Usually they're expired.
Yeah. So, look, it's a plastic society. Cash is not dead, but we do all tend to use it, right? Yes, ma'am.
How do you challenge it with law enforcement that is when, like, okay, should we wear the delivery with the police station, we have the exact address for cameras with some great car parts or
what realistically can law enforcement do about that?
Well, no matter how good they are, and as I said, the Lockport Police Department is very good, I mean, Romeoville is very good, I love working with them as well. I gotta be honest, there's not a lot we can do, and we try. There's a mortgage scam that was happening not too long ago, really, about 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I did a lot of real estate and zoning and redevelopment when I was in private practice. But the scam was basically the Attorney General's office required fair truth in lending requirements. So your attorneys, or you would have to file certain documents with the Attorney General that would be transparent. What would happen was you'd have somebody out there who would somehow get a hold of, off of that, your attorney's letterhead. They would then direct you, they would send this off to you, directing you to send your application fees or whatever in to this particular email address, which he was saying was his account or her account, and as it turned out, it wasn't. It was a total scam. So when I started calling up a bunch, I was chief deputy at that time, and I was calling up a bunch of real estate attorneys I knew and said, how often does this happen? And they were saying, it's becoming very common. And I said, we got to figure something out here. These people are getting hurt. And then the whole mortgage was being sent off to somebody else. It was just crazy. Hundreds of thousands of dollars ended up being redirected to another account. Then it was gone. And I said, first on the front end, we've got to figure something else out. And so we did. We worked through it. We basically had letters go out to all the clients saying that do not ever send money anywhere. In a letter I said, I will never tell you to do that. Never wiring anything. You bring it to my office. That kind of started to clear it up, but then we had to try and catch them, right? So I engaged the FBI. They said, oh yeah, no, we're aware where we can. Have them file this application and blah, blah, blah.
No, that I had to assume all the liability of where it went, and I had to sign a release that they were not responsible for the wire routing number, that I assumed liability, but they controlled the number.
Yeah.
What options did I have?
Right, flares going off though, weren't they?
Yeah, but that's how
Did it work out?
That's how real estate is done.
Well, yes and no. I've been out of it now for 11 years, so I understand that. I was kind of surprised when I was being told about this whole wiring process, and hopefully we prevented some of that. But yeah, and so you sent it on, everything's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was not happy
Right.
with that. And I would have been in breach of contract if the money did not show up on time and the seller could sue me on top.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, so if they just let somebody bring a cashier's check, we
Right.
could cover.
I mean, it's just, what you're saying is just like what we're talking about. You know, we all have to kind of rely on the system and hope that it works, right?
Yeah, but they wouldn't let me have any other option. That was
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was unfair that all the liability had to come to me.
Sure, I don't disagree with you, especially when you've done nothing wrong and you did exactly what they said.
And I'd be happy to cover them in any direction they
Right.
wanted and comply for their benefit.
Yeah. In other words, given no choice at all, and this is how you have to do it, no other choices, and then done.
Not kind of, I wasn't.
You were right. Yes.
Couldn't her lawyer have prevented that from happening, that she's dealing with in the real estate process, protecting her from signing a document that would, preclude that? And also, in the whole real estate deal, if it didn't go through, protecting her from the fact that she could get sued or whatever, It's an unreasonable request, I would think it, and I'm not a lawyer, but I would say that's an unreasonable request.
I asked for that. I negotiated. He was a guy in Lockport. He's a well-known guy. His name starts with a K. I don't recommend him. I negotiated. I read the contract. I said, I don't like this. He said, too bad.
Well, I
And he was
appreciate it.
offended. I challenged it.
Right.
So, yeah, different lawyer, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to necessarily comment specifically on that, but
Yeah.
in answer to your question, yes, I would hope so. That would happen. I mean, any kind of irregularities would come up when I was representing people, and I would take care of it. That's what I was there for, right? Times have changed a bit. In fact, it's really kind of unusual. Illinois, where we live right here, is one of the only areas in the country that actually use attorneys in real estate transactions. And I push back on that very hard. Why? Not because I'm trying to protect my brothers and sisters-in-law. Not at all. But who's sitting there? If you don't use attorneys in a real estate closing, as a buyer or a seller, who's sitting there on your behalf to have one job, and that's to protect you? Who's at that table? Title company? Well, I like a lot of title companies, and they're very good, but they're there not for you. Right? The bank. Who's the bank there for? Banks. Who else? The closer? No. Assessors? No. Real estate brokers? A lot of good ones, but they're not there to protect you. Their only job as an attorney is to protect you. And that's why I like it. But Texas, no attorneys used. Arizona, no attorneys used. And I sit there, my family lives down there, you gotta be kidding me. You go out and hire a real estate lawyer to handle your real estate transaction in Arizona. So my daughter.
Yeah, well, and the other thing I bumped into is I read my title insurance policy.
Right.
And at the end of it, there was no contact number in case I had to file a claim. And they would not give me that information. They wanted me to go to the attorney whose name was there. So I called the Illinois regulators, the insurance regulators, and she put a fire under them.
Good.
And I got a policy that had the contact number for the policy. But how creepy is that? After I asked for how am I supposed to file a claim, they did exactly the same thing.
Right.
So pick your lawyer well.
That's important. I agree with you. It's very important to pick your lawyer well, but have one for real estate transactions. The only person there besides you that's protecting you in closing. I know it costs a little bit more, but the lawyers are, and again, I'm not, pushing you on them in general, but they are the least paid person sitting at that table. Seriously. If they're making $500 or $600 sitting there for several hours, that's cheap. The realtor's making a lot more, the bank's making a lot more, the title company's making more, everybody's making more, and the lonely lawyer is sitting there protecting you and getting paid the least. So I've heard horror stories about lawyers, I've run across them, and I'll tell you one, and I'll leave, I've spoken really far too long here, but read the pamphlet here, and let me tell you my bad lawyer story. I did a lot of wills. I did so many wills and power of attorneys. As an attorney, I gave most of them away free because I wanted people to have them. So something came along, and I'm not saying that if you have one of these, it should be worth this. Some time ago, things have changed quite a bit. But back when they first started, they had something called revocable living trusts, and that was a problem with me. I didn't like the way they were set up. I pushed back on them, and I really kind of, at the time, again, now may be entirely different, so don't be panicky if you have one. But back then, they were trying to sell them like, I don't know, some kind of a used cars. And so I had a client, a longtime friend of mine. She was at the time, about 87 years old. And she didn't have anything. I knew her well. She was part of my church. And she came in and wanted me to do a will for her. So I go through the workup because I want to find out what I'm dealing with. And I basically go through what are your assets and go through that. So God bless her. She had a total asset value in this life of $37,000. I gave her her will, and I asked her what she wanted to do with the stuff. We wrote it down in there, did it all up. I gave her a power of attorney for health care, with direction, power of attorney for property. And that's basically the basics that you need, right? Didn't charge her for it, gave it to her. She was very grateful. 3 weeks later, I got a call from her. And she was mad at me. And I'm mad. And I said, what is going on? She said, Ken, you never told me about a living trust. Why I should not have a living trust? Why didn't you tell me that? You should have prepared one of those for me. right away my heart sank. And I said, would you do me a huge favor? I'll come and pick you up if you want, but you come in and see me. And she did. And you know what, Kate? She brought in this really nice embossed things, a living trust on it, and all these papers that were a mess. They were an absolute mess. But here's what I found. They opened the lid. The invoice was there. How much do you think that attorney charged her for a living trust she did not need?
2,000.
I'm sorry?
2,000.
2,000? 5? $3,700. Amazing. 10% of the value of all of her assets. I was never so mad in my life. I knew this attorney very well. He had a graduate degree on his wall from Harvard Law School. He drove a red Ferrari. A red Ferrari. And I would always talk to him on the street and, man, I love that car. That's beautiful. He let me sit in it once. $3,700 from a woman who's nowhere near your living trust. Nowhere near. And there are some people who may need them, but she didn't need any. In fact, I told her, so anyway. So I sat down, and it took me 2 to 3 hours of my time to re-educate her. And when she realized that she'd been taken, she started crying. I did too. And so I said, just sit tight here. I went into the other office, my office, and I called him up. The guy with the red Ferrari. We'll call him Bill. I said, Bill, I'm great. Ken, how you doing? I'm doing great, Bill. How are you doing, Bill? And he said, I'm doing fantastic. Not so much longer yet, he said, doing fantastic, Bill. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, I just got done meeting with, we call her Rita. Just got done meeting with Rita for 2.5 to 3 hours. Undo the living trust that you charged for $3,700. Well, Ken, look, you mean I like it? No. I don't want any excuses. I don't want to hear anything about you say. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to be in my office in less than an hour. You're going to give me a check for $37 for her. You're going to give me a check for my time. And if you don't, I'll be taking this to the Supreme Court. I mean right now, today, I'll be calling. And I may do so anyway. 40 minutes later, he pulled up in his Ferrari. And he lived 30 minutes away, so he was hustling, wasn't he? And he gave me the check. He started trying to talk to me. I said, no. Checks, please. And if they don't cash, you and I are going to be in court real fast. And you're going to lose your license. He said, they're good, and they're good. He said, man, don't be so angry with me. Oh, no, I'm very angry with you. Get out of my office. I gave her back that money. Felt good. But how many other people got ripped off by this team? So yes, I did report it. I want to leave it there. Yes, ma'am.
I was told that, and I don't know if it's true or not, that if you have a house that's worth $200,000, and even though you have a will, if you don't have a trust that goes to probate, and then it gets down on that, is that true?
Well, they will sell those things in many different ways. Not necessarily.
I did it, but it was not, I did not
Right.
get charged like that.
Right.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, regardless of what they say, everything has to be probated. So they're going to tell you that, but at some point now it's going to be in probate, in all likelihood. The woman with $37,000 estate, all I have to do is file, if she passed away, we call a small estates affidavit. I can resolve it in my office at no fee. If anybody doesn't have that kind of, I'm not going to charge them anything. I just resolve it there. The family's sitting in front of me. We hopefully resolve everything quickly, and it's all done. Yeah, with my will. I would have to look at the trust, and I can't do that anymore because of what I do. But generally speaking, there's something in there called pour-over will. That's got to be filed to probate, and this sort of paperwork has to be filed anyway. But the bottom line is, you're either going to pay somebody now to resolve it, or the estate will pay it at the time of probate.
You say it's not really protection.
Well, it depends protection against what? You know, your protection against probate itself, or protection against predators, or what? So I mean, that's why it's hard for me to go into details on it. I did not favor those, but again, don't panic, don't think you've been ripped off. It depends on who your lawyer was and how they were drafted. But depends on what you were intending to do and what your discussions were with your lawyer. So, not a big fan of them. Most of them I think are a waste of money, but those could change. Yes, ma'am.
On a different vein, and you're talking about giving away your information.
Mm-hmm.
The government is now asking us to get these real IDs.
I'm sorry, what?
The government is now asking us to get these real IDs.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And that asks for 4 different categories of information. One from A, one from B, 2 from C, 1 from D. And
Sure.
some of it's very personal information.
Right.
So you're giving the government this information, which probably is available anyway. But I'm thinking, are these IDs, first of all, a lot of people don't know about it, because they're not really telling people about it.
Right.
Right now, it just prevents you from flying inside the United States and going into certain government buildings. What protection do we have in the future of them not using this ID for like voter suppression or for other items? Because when we got our original, back in the day, of our Social Security, it said not to be used for identification. But what do they use? They use that. So you have this real ID. And what is the government going to use it for? And are they going to start chipping us next?
Well, I wish I had all
It's a real fear of mine because
Yeah.
you can't really trust.
Right.
Because I feel they're going to just eliminate certain groups of people from voting, from maybe using their Medicare, from whatever. If you don't have this ID, which costs people money. So if people are of modest means, you know how much it costs to get it, and they don't take copies of your birth certificate. They want the real one. That's like $100.
Right.
So if people are of modest means, how are they going to get all this if they don't have it?
I wish I had an answer for you.
Well,
I mean,
I'm just saying, I'm just raising the voice. If you don't know
Yeah.
about the real ID thing,
Learn about it.
watch out.
All right, learn about it, yeah. Well, we just got done talking about, I didn't personally, but somebody scamming me through the IRS. I went in to apply for Social Security about, I'm 67, so what was it, 2 years ago? 1.5 years ago? I was shocked. I was utterly amazed in a good way. So I went in to apply for it, I don't know if you've been in there, you probably have. You put in your name and Social Security number and little data entry thing there, and then you get your number and you sit down. And you pray. And you're kind of nervous. I was. And then your name's number's called, and you go off the little cubicle down the hallway there, and you go in, and you sit down, and you're sitting there talking to a kid who's about 22 years old. And my wife, of course, she gets me prepared for everything, gives me all the stuff. Well, we had a special needs child, and so we had all his documents, and we had everything. She gave me the stuff, and I walked in, sit down in the chair, and this is Mr. Gray. Thank you so much for your service, sir. Really? How do you know that? Well, amazingly enough, we know quite a bit about you. You served 5 years active duty in Germany during the Vietnam era. We appreciate your service. Thank you. Okay. I didn't give you any of that information. You have all employment information they have, right? So they do. They have it all. But it was the most pleasant experience with a government bureaucracy I've ever had. I'm not saying you're all going to have a good experience with them, but there are bureaucrats out there that will help. And this gentleman said, we are not here to keep money from you. We're here to find those things that you're entitled to. Things I didn't even know about. Like shocking. So I want to tell you the good news story, at least from my perspective. You may hate the Social Security officers, you may hate this other, I get it. But I had a very good experience there. He was very nice. Yes,
Then
ma'am.
why do they need all this information to give us a card that
Right.
they can deny us things with? And
I don't disagree.
think, it's a real, people should be aware of what they're doing to them.
If you have
I
a
agree.
passport, you don't need to get a real ID.
Now, maybe, what are they gonna do later, once they get it into place? Can you really trust this government? No.
Well, Now you don't have to get it.
No, I haven't, I mean, I haven't, I'm thinking of the people who don't get it. Because what if somebody doesn't have it, they have a relative someplace, they wanna go to see their, dying aunt, whatever, they can't get on a plane. And what does a passport cost? You know, do they have the, you know, it's denying a lot of people.
I would say the same thing she did is, I'm more comfortable giving my information to the federal government for a passport, and they have it all anyway. Then the state of Illinois.
It's the federal government, it's not the state.
So that's how I know. And the passports now have RI, which are rated over hard.
But it's a federal ID, it's not a state ID.
I just want to have a clarification, so if you don't have organic, no ID, a passport will go on the front and the
Yes.
Not,
So passport will allow you to fly domestically, that's what we're talking about right now, so passport's not bad, I've got one.
yeah, but,
I didn't know you could use it to fly domestically, so now I'll tell my wife that.
yeah, but you can also take a bus, take a train without any.
Right.
So I'm just saying, you open the door with this, where is it gonna lead? And I'm just saying, people should be aware
Right.
of this. And by the way, not all states call it a real ID. There's one state that calls it a residency card.
Ah, got it, okay. All right, very good. Now, I was asked that time has just flown by here, and I do apologize to Officer Jaron. She did ask me to explain the judicial system. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about it. As far as the justice system goes, yes ma'am, how are you? What's a grand jury? How do you become one? Okay, so the question is, what is a grand jury? And how do you become a grand juror? So, yeah. Well, grand jury is made up of a varied number of people, average people like you people sitting here. How many people have been on a grand jury? There was one back there. I seem to remember you. Was I in there? Okay. Anybody else on a grand jury? I'll tell you what, I agree with you. If there's a way that you can get on a grand jury, get on it. It actually is, it's timely. You're in there for 3 months. Not 3 months solid, you're 1 day a week for 3 months. And what happens is, we basically present our cases. So let's say Officer Jaron arrested somebody for aggravated battery or residential burglary. Well, Officer Jaron would come before our grand jury, who is changed every 3 months. You know, those jury commission things you get in the mail? The Chief Justice and the jury commission will take out of those randomly 16 to 25 of those applications, of those information, and they'll say, these are going to be our grand jurors. And so then the grand jurors are told, you're going to be on the grand jury 1 day a week for 3 months. If you can't do it, let us know. We'll put you in a regular thing, and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know who they are. Sometimes I do. I don't meet the grand jury until the very end day, and I usually go in and try to go in to thank them once they're all done. And amazingly, I'll walk in there, I'll see somebody I know that's in there. I didn't know that until then. It's kind of confidential and secret by law, but they are an investigative body. So Officer Jaron would bring her case in. She'd be sworn in before the grand jury in a secret room that we have. Right, it's the secret room in the big building there downtown, the MCO building.
It's a federal grand jury downtown.
Oh, federal grand jury, okay. That's why you didn't see me. Same thing though, same concept. You go into this room, you have a 4-person, and then the rest of them. The officer would be sworn in. She would testify as to what she saw and what the reports say. She would then leave. If it was that simple of a case, it was just one officer, that would be it. So she'd step out, the door would close, our assistant state attorney would step out, be with the officer outside of that room. They would vote whether they're going to charge the person with a criminal complaint or what's called a bill of indictment. So this is a simple majority. It's bringing the charge. So we have a lot of options as a state attorney's office. We can bring the charge, the officers can bring the charge by arresting somebody. So that's the first charge, right? If they choose not to arrest, they can bring their reports to us, or you can, as a potential victim, bring their reports to us. We then decide what our thoughts are. Can we charge or not charge? 98% of the time, the officer's right. And they probably shouldn't be charged. However, there are times when we may disagree with the officer, we may talk to the officer, and we may charge them. Times when the officer will arrest somebody, and we'll, can't unarrest them, but we'll not charge them. And they sometimes will get frustrated with it, say, gone, those state's attorneys. But we're looking at it a little bit differently than they are. We're looking at, we've got to be able to convict that person. How do we convict somebody? By taking it to a jury and proving our case beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's unethical for me if I don't believe that we can convict that person beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know that I can continue on the charge. That's a constitutional protection, right? Now, if we can't do some follow-ups and the officers can find some other witnesses from other evidence, we may have to dismiss that case. Because that's your constitutional right. And that's my obligation as a prosecutor. If we cannot, convict that person beyond a reasonable doubt, we cannot proceed forward. Now, sometimes they're close. And I may have disagreement among staff on a case. And we may say, well, we three over here don't think we can do it, us six over here say we can. And we may have to balance that a little bit. You'll have to bring the officers down there, we'll all talk together. And so anyway, that's part of the grand jury process. So the grand jury is a secret investigative body that hears evidence, and they have the power to direct us to search for more, to do this or that, which we will do if they ask us to do that. But we generally will present the case, and they will make that decision. It's not a conviction, it's just a charge. Then you still have the rights by going through a jury trial or a bench trial for us requiring us to prove our case. Yeah.
And what is this called?
Where? In the grand jury? Absolutely. Yeah, we call. Well, we do as a state's attorney's office, but they can as well. They basically direct our assistants to, we'd like to hear from this person. Now, we'll either say, well, here's a problem with that, or yes, we'll subpoena them. So generally speaking, though, and I'm sure in your case, same thing happens, it's up to the prosecuting agency to put those witnesses forward in front of the grand jury to have them testify to you. We're not going to lay our whole case out there necessarily, but put in enough to have you all make that decision. So it's really, I love grand jury because it's you folks making that decision. It's not just us. You guys are saying, go arrest this person. Charge him. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Think about it. Pretty amazing. You have that power together. Yes, sir.
The individual members of the grand jury, can they ask questions, or do they have to go through the foreman?
No, individual grand jury members can ask questions.
Okay.
Without question, they can ask questions, and a lot of them do. And they give us a run for our money. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We've had lawyers on there. We've had detectives on there from other agencies. We've had this and that. So that happens, and I encourage it. I mean, it's a difficult thing when you think about it. You're making that judgment. Officers make it very regularly. We make it pretty regularly. But you as a citizen then are saying, go arrest him. I want him charged. Talk about it. That's impressive, isn't it? When you're making that decision, it's really weighty too. So, I apologize that there was a lot more we could cover. I apologize to you. I'm happy to come back anytime. I'm sure that Jim would be happy to be here with you. Any questions at all? Very good. Thank you so much for coming.
So, thank you to Ken Gray for coming out and spending some time with us this morning. We will hopefully in the future be able to have Mr. he'll ask I'll come out, and I'm sure Ken will assist him in that. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items. Gentlemen, if you come up. Again, at the very beginning, we said Triad is a community of your law enforcement, seniors, and any other type of services that might deal with our seniors in our community. So this doesn't just encompass Lockport Police Department, but we have, Linda, come up here too. But we have representatives, don't give me that look, get up here.
I saw that look too.
We have representatives from our Romeoville Police Department, because we do have citizens from Romeoville, Lockport Township here with us. So we have Officer Mark but unfortunately, he's going to be going back to patrol here shortly, but his replacement.
Dave can be, the central location, the nexus, the brain that'll channel you out to where you gotta go, whether it be setting up a meeting somewhere at your community that you're part of, whether it be just answering some basic questions, or referring to other experts in the department like our traffic unit, investigations, etc. Or Linda, our social worker.
This is Linda, she's a social worker in Romeoville. So she frequently attends our triad when she can. So if there's any situation, if you're going through something, or you know that a family member or friend is going through something, please utilize her as a point of resource and somebody that you can talk to. I do have, Mark was generous enough to write down a plethora of topics for us. Now, since we can bring before he leaves the unit, what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to go ahead and email you our next flyer and a bunch of different topics. What I would like you to do is if you could email me back, or even call, you can still call when you need to register, you can call that number, and call in and say that you would like to hear about this topic. I want to get a vote from our senior group, instead of it just coming from me. But I'd like to get your input. So I will email you a whole list. Let me know what you would like to hear, that we can get started, set up in the future months. If you do not have an email, there is a gold piece of paper at the table where we first walked in. Please make sure your address is down there. I will type one up. I will send it to you through the mail. Okay, because I want to make sure everybody has the information so we can start to get a vote from you guys on what you want to hear. I'm still trying to get representatives from Crest Hill to come out. So if you are in Crest Hill, Lockport Township, feel free to maybe call and say, hey, we would love to see a Crest Hill officer at the Triad meeting. So hopefully we can get them out to represent as well. And I just wanted to introduce them so you know that they're faces when you see them here.
One more thing too, the non-emergency number for Romeoville, if anyone wanted to write it down, to get in touch with Linda or Officer Wrench, is 815-886-7219. That'll go immediately to our records personnel. We have records staying late now until like 11 o'clock at night, so there'll usually be someone there to answer the phone during daytime hours. And they can direct you to either of these two voicemails where we can get you more information. Or if you have a general complaint, of course, you can always refer to our dispatch to handle something immediately through our facility.
So make sure you look for an email coming out from our community outreach unit this week regarding topics and also our new flyer for next month. Okay, I'm waiting to hear about next month, so I'm not going to say anything right now because then if it changes, I don't want to have to go back. So just wait for the flyer. It'll have everything on there for the next 2 meetings. Perfect. Yes, and if I don't have your email, if you do have one, you can just write it down, give it to me, put it on the gold sheet. I try to update everybody's contact information after each meeting. Okay? I hope you had a wonderful time today. We'll be here for the next, couple minutes if you do have any questions personally for us. We're here at your disposal, okay? So, or go home, bunker down so you don't get wet. Put a fire on, relax.